Well, welcome back to Podcast Bozo, where week after week, three bozos teach each other new things and learn from astonishing guests. Today, we are talking about the ethics of representing guilty parties, the reasons lawyers do it, how they justify it, serial killers, and at the end, we'll teach you how to get out of a speeding ticket or the best way to do so. Note that we are not lawyers, so please do not take this advice verbatim. Hire a lawyer if you want that kind of advice. I'm your host, JJ. I'm here with Eli, our resident artist, but you can call me Boobies. Before we put our sweet lips in motion, we want to encourage you to contribute to the conversation, communicate with us over the social medias or our website, which is at podcastbozo.com. Speaking of our website, go there, donate. We'll read whatever you write in the donation message or write you a little backstory. Not sure what that means. Donate to find out. Plus, that money all goes back into the production and distribution of the podcast. So thank you. Wow. All right. The conversation we just had, this is something new we're trying, by the way. We're recording the intro afterwards so that we can properly summarize what we're getting into. So the conversation E and I just had was about lawyers. It's pretty interesting. We talked about some serial killers. We got on some tangents. Yeah, thanks for listening.
Here we go. We just got off of our first live stream, or we count as a second.
It was the first one the way we did it. Maybe.
That was a really surprisingly good showing.
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of fun in that.
Yeah, a lot of people showed up, a lot of chirping. Yeah, if you're listening to this and you didn't find the live stream, we're going to try to do them before every episode, even when we have guests. But yeah, I don't know. It was a good time. Kind of weird to sort it all out, all the technology. If you have any suggestions on how we're doing that, let me know. We're kind of new to it. I'm pretty old, so I haven't been able to figure that out yet. Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks to everyone who showed up. Love the love. Was a very warming experience. Love our fan base, just all in all. Today we're talking about geography.
Geography? Yeah, I think it was the geography of geology.
Geography of geology of Pete's ass.
Yeah, we're going to examine our friend's ass. Join us for that live stream next week. We're gonna put on highlights of how deep we got and our protractors examining his rectum. So, but yeah, that's not actually what we're talking about today, is it?
We're not talking about geography. Oh, we're talking about the cult of law.
Yeah, the cult. It is kind of a cult. The cult of law is pretty.
We've got a couple friends who are deep in the cult.
Yeah. I feel like we have actually a pretty decent exposure to law people in general.
Mm-hmm. Our girlfriends are in the cult.
Girlfriends is. Yeah, I don't know. Everything I've learned about law school and law, this is kind of an aside, but it just sounds awful. People who do law are like, I hated law school, but it was worth it. So maybe that's the light at the other end of the tunnel for our girlfriends who don't listen to this. So doesn't matter. But yeah, I wanted to talk about representing guilty parties. Because that has always been interesting to me, and I've always felt like it was kind of weird to represent. Before we did this topic, I didn't know how exactly it worked to like have to represent a guilty party. Like what did that entail? What if you know they're guilty? What if they're a murderer? Like how do you live with yourself if you're defending a murderer? And the first thing that did you say you'd seen Lincoln Lawyer? I
have, but I don't remember the plot.
Yeah. Well, I have the plot here to read.
Beautiful.
Not the entire plot. We're going to do the transcript of it. Mick Haller, Matthew McConaughey, is a charismatic defense attorney who does business out of his Lincoln sedan.
Dobus.
He's doing business. Mick spends most of his time defending petty crooks and other bottom feeders. So it comes as quite a surprise when he lands a case of a lifetime defending a Beverly Hills playboy, Ryan Felipe, who's accused of attempted murder. However, what Mick initially thinks is an open and shut case with a big monetary reward develops into something much more sinister. I feel like you could take out the names of that and put in other names, and that's just like every lawyer movie that I can think of. I mean, like, I guess maybe not, but what are other lawyer movies?
I don't watch a lot of lawyer movies.
I don't know either. Um, well, Mick, we're here to talk about you a good amount. But that's not where like my curiosity comes from, but it highlights a good example of like throughout that movie, Matthew McConaughey being the sexy stud he is like a very good lawyer, but it's loosely based off a real person, but very loosely. I was reading about that a little bit. But he lives out of his car and serves these petty criminals, and spoiler alerts ahead if you haven't seen this movie, it's well worth watching. So skip 10 minutes if you haven't seen it yet, but he like takes up this case with this guy, and he seemed like the synopsis said, he seems like a good guy, and he starts doing some digging into it and starts seeing things that are like a little suspect. And Matthew McConaughey figures out eventually that this guy actually did commit the murders, and then turns out that people he loves start getting jeopardized because this guy is like he's basically blackmailing Mick Haller to serve him and get him off. Mick Haller gets him off, but then the twist at the end is that like he finds something else that he did illegal, and then I feel like some acquaintance of his, I kind of forget, it's been a while, like ends up using that evidence to like go and try him again and get him arrested. And then there's like this whole like fun thing where like one of the petty lawyers or petty criminals that he gets off in the beginning, like comes and does him a solid. It's like a biker
revival,
gang guy. Yeah,
like redemption.
Yeah, exactly. And like you think it's just like an introduction, like this guy's not going to serve any purpose to the story, and it's just like it's this biker gang, but he's getting like the leader off, and he gets him off, and so like now they're tight type of thing, you know. And there's all these scenes of Matthew McConaughey like coming out of his Lincoln in his like suit and tie, and like you're like, oh, supposed to be intimidated by these bikers and things like that. But he like walks right up to him as if he's wearing like a flak jacket, which like his muscles look like he is. But
that's McConaughey for you.
He's a strong guy.
Of course he gets on with the bikers.
Of course he gets off on the bikers. But then later in the story, those bikers, you think they're irrelevant, come back, protect him in some like life or death situation. All's well that ends well. I think someone actually dies. Yeah, angels in the skies. Sons of Anarchy. But yeah, so that's kind of
that covers it for law.
That's it. Yeah, now on to Pete's anus. But but yeah, I don't know. I like being a defense attorney is kind of full of these things. And you always hear the crime shows, and I feel like a lot of crime shows don't necessarily cover the court case afterwards, but for every crime show you watch, there's a civil and criminal proceeding afterwards where they settle for damages, which in the case of a murder or something like that is pretty weird to put financial value on a lost life. Or you're going in and you're if it's a small ball crime, doesn't matter what, you have someone defending someone who is either inevitably guilty or thinks they're guilty or is accused of guilty. And it's important to state in the word of the law that you're innocent until proven guilty. So you'll see, I was reading through a lot of accounts of lawyers who like basically justify their actions on the fact that that their job is to get people's sentences reduced or get them accused of the correct crime or get their sentencing reduced, you know. So in general, if you talk to someone like, how do you, the lawyers are kind of like rule guys, you know, you ask a lawyer, like, what's the morality of this situation? And he or she's going to say, well, it doesn't matter what the morality is. Like, I can't think about that. I think about what the rule of the law is. And I think that's kind of, I don't know, that's the part for me, at least. I don't know about you, E, that is hard for me to reprimand because like, we'll get into stories about people who like defended Ted Bundy in murder, in his murders and stuff like that. And they all have their own justifications, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the lawyer has to put their, from what I've learned in law school, is that the lawyer has to put their subject. What do they call it? Their employee, their
Client.
client.
I
I think there's a better word for that.
Attorney-client privilege. Defendant.
Acolyte or something.
Yeah.
In the best light, and that they have to remove all biases that they have, and they gotta follow the rules.
Yeah.
So it's at a certain point, it's like you have to be able to be objective, unbiased, and separate yourself from your morals and ideas and argue for this person's favor, even if they done it.
Yeah, even if they did done it. Which is like, there are scenarios where you don't know if they did it, or maybe they think they did it, but you know the law better than your average client, and you know maybe there was a reason for them to do it that could get them off. Like it was a motivated murder. Mm-hmm. Like in not that I know of any specific cases like this, but like in domestic violence, like there's a lot of times where the woman will have to kill the husband.
Yeah, my mind went the same place.
Yeah,
because that's like obviously they done it, and it's not a good thing, but you can understand why they did it, and it should be argued that it's justified.
Right. If that person is married to a monster who comes home every day and beats them, and they're scared for their lives, and they don't, in most of those cases, you can't conceive a way to get out, then your significant other, the murdering them might be the only way to get out of it. So
what's interesting to me is how people cope with it. Like I know that there are people who defend, I don't know, like people being accused of rape or something, and they like actually believe their stories when other outsiders might think they're highly suspect.
Who believes their stories? The lawyers do?
Yeah, the lawyers be like, yeah, like this person is actually in the right. Like I think they're, I think that this case against them isn't justified.
Right.
And
yeah.
so like they'll believe their acolyte that they're defending, even if they're guilty. And I don't know if that's like it just got by them, or if like that's the way that they cope, is like they want to try and believe them to like help invest themselves in the case better.
There's got to be some level of just blatant ignorance. I think I even read one account of one guy who's like defending murderers is like looking at life through a foggy window, where he was like, which doesn't make sense, because there's like a level of responsibility as a good lawyer to pretend you are the prosecution and prepare yourself for every single aspect of what the prosecution may throw at you. So through that, you're doing your due diligence and discovering. And I remember, have you watched Making a Murderer?
I think I watched the first season.
Yeah. So in the second season, this lady is hired to like come and like try to appeal the decision or whatever that process is called. And she's saying at the beginning, she's like, you better be honest with me. She's saying, I defend a lot of people like this. And you better be honest with me, because the first person to find out if you're not being honest is going to be me. And I don't know if the appeals process is different than the regular process, but in the Discord chat we were talking about today, with a true lawyer. So you can go back if you haven't joined that chat and check out it's going to be in the midst of a lot of gifts and things, so it might not be productive, but if you're a lawyer representing someone and you find out that someone is guilty, you still have to serve them. And I'm pretty sure it's under almost no circumstance you can leave unless they are being difficult and lying around every turn.
Or if they threaten you.
Or if they threaten you. Yeah, there's that whole concept of confidentiality where like you can't tell anyone that they're guilty. That's actually one of the things about Lincoln Lawyer that I looked at. There's someone like debunking some of the things that happened in Lincoln Lawyer. And, I mean, Matthew McConaughey found out he was guilty and started hinting some things to other parties about him being guilty. And one of the parties he leaks some of that information to is another lawyer. And they actually, as a lawyer, she actually had a duty to the bar to report that, but she doesn't. She's a former ex-wife, so there's some context. Or she is an ex-wife. So
former ex-wife.
They got back together. It's a love story. But yeah, he also like bribes a judge and presents false evidence to a judge, and it's like presented as like clever, but just wouldn't fly in real life. Like he would go to jail or lose his bar, or have to like, I don't know, take an ethics test or something like that.
What's interesting to me are the sociopaths who represent the bad guys routinely and like don't give a shit about it. Like what Alan Dershowitz, that guy,
Who's
absolute
that?
scumbag. He was like friends with Epstein, one of Trump's lawyers. Real cretin.
Yeah.
Like looks gross. But you know, like it's common for kids who get out of law school to join like a really I don't know what type of lawyers. I don't know shit about law. So like just know that about me.
Yeah.
But kids who get out of law school, they'll go work for a firm that pays lots and lots of money, but like does the devil's work just to pay off their debt for a couple of years, and then they'll get into something like
wholesome.
Wholesome, yeah.
Yeah. There's like there's relief you can get if you work in the public sector of like defense or whatever for state governments. If you work there for 5 years, you get your like and make reasonable efforts to depreciate your debt, law school debt, then they'll pay the rest of it or something like that. I don't know the full details of that, but there are some programs. That was kind of something we talked about in the Discord today. Young Tuna brought up the fact that like Young Tuna brought up the fact that these lawyers are like the lawyers defending you in a public criminal or any, like you have a right for a lawyer. You might not be able to afford a great lawyer or any lawyer at all. So the state appointed lawyer might not always be like the best defense. So there's to some extent not a factor. There's a monetary factor to you being guilty and not guilty. In terms of like you might not be guilty, but the situation might be complicated, or you might be up against a lot of circumstantial evidence, and because you got the boilerplate lawyer, you might lose that case. Whereas boilerplate, you know that term?
No, I've never heard that.
It's like it means like cookie cutter, like just very cut and dry. I'm trying to use not a cliche, just like run of the mill. But there's a lot of cliches for that. Blank slate. But yeah, it's just kind of like the blandest, less qualified lawyer might not be specialized in anything, whereas you can get someone who's specialized in reducing sentencing or specialized in not taking things to court or settlements or whatever that is if you're paying top dollar. So yeah, there's kind of all those factors to it.
Do you know what Frank Azar does?
Frank Azar is
his injury.
I think he's specifically car injury.
Is he the everyman or the big bucks only?
Hurt in a car, call Frank Azar, the strong arm of the law.
Arm.
Yeah, that guy. Oh, we should probably also explain that we are not lawyers, and you've said that already, but
no, we can't give any legal advice.
Yeah.
Don't take anything we say. Take everything we say with a grain of salt.
Yeah, exactly.
What cliches can we give?
Yeah, I know. I feel like I'm stuck in this pit of cliches now. But yeah, it's important to know that we're recounting stories and articles that we've read, and
friends that people we've met along the way that joined the cult of law.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I mean, at the end of the day, like law is just a set of made up rules. I don't think there's any basis to it. It's kind of freaky.
I mean, I can't tell if you're joking or not, but there's a lot of truth to that. But that is true, because that was one thing I was looking at, is there's a difference between, one guy was talking about how like there's a difference between factual truth and lawful truth. Mm-hmm. And in that comes into play when you're talking about like proving innocence, or proving guilt beyond reasonable doubt.
What's the difference between factual and law?
Well, if I murdered someone, but there's no evidence, and one person and the state takes me to a criminal lawsuit, but there's no evidence to it, the facts of the matter would be I'd be guilty, but there's not enough evidence, or if evidence was unrightfully obtained or whatever, then it becomes lawfully untrue that I was a murderer.
It's like that dance in all the mob movies you see, of like trying to catch trying to catch Capone jerking off, all that.
And like the Undercover People, I don't really know, like, How does that play into things? Undercover people. Is there a warrant at that point?
Yeah, do things by the book.
Yeah, but if you're an undercover person and you're wearing a wire and you obtain like someone's saying like, oh, the big deal's going down. We got a jelly bean in the backyard, you know?
Yeah.
Then how is that legally obtained? Is that just because it's a conversation you're allowed to record? But there's a whole factor of like...
No idea.
Yeah.
Probably some law stuff that we don't know anything about, but we should make up something about.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's like if you flick your nose 2 times before you say a sentence beginning with a vowel, it becomes legally admissible.
It's code in the world of law. Mm-hmm. They call it the beggar's bargain.
The beggar's bargain.
Yeah, 1912. First case about it was with Ether Judice. I think that was the case.
Ether?
Yeah, Ether Judice.
Where are
that
they
was
from?
Just before Prohibition.
Was that 1812?
1912.
Oh, 1912, yeah. The year is 1922.
1912. Pete's ass was my business.
I was measuring the circumference of Pete's ass.
Dude, leave it to the one episode where it's just you and I where we start talking about Pete's ass.
Do you not want this?
Nah.
Oh, you got them for me?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us what you think of that, fans. He's not drinking stones. Is there a reason? Is it just not the day?
I took an aspirin. I don't want to drink on.
Did you get a shot recently? Or no?
No, but the COVID?
Fun. Yeah, what, are you feeling bad?
Yeah, I got a headache, but I think it's sinuses because I still have the headache.
Yeah.
The allergies this season.
Probably pretty tough, especially since it's been raining a lot. I feel like that makes a difference.
I'm not sure. A geologist.
Yeah, it's true. That's the next episode.
Law. There's a case that I know about going on called, this guy's got such a funny name. It's like the middle schooler in me is cracking up. Stephen Donzinger. Donzinger. It sounds like Dong Zinger, but I think it's Don Zinger.
Okay.
But he's like under house arrest right now because, long story short, he was a lawyer working in Ecuador because Chevron spilled like a ton of toxic waste. Not spilled, like dumped it, like planned it out. Like, we've got all this waste. It's going to be a lot cheaper if we just dump it in the like river by all these villages. Mm-hmm. So they did that. The community still suffering, like thousands of people have died from cancer. The environment is just ravaged.
Jesus.
And so this guy put together the case to like sue Chevron, ended up winning, just like an insurmountable evidence, and charged Chevron with like multiple $1 billion, like 12 something like that.
Wow.
And now Chevron is going after him and saying that like the case he made was false, like racketeering charges, like fake testimonial, all that. And now he's being prosecuted by someone under the pay of Chevron. So like Chevron is being like the judge, jury, and executioner for his case. And they're trying to like brush it underneath the rug. I don't know. Like, this is where it gets into the shit I don't know about. I don't know how this was even possible, but.
So how could you enforce a law as just a company? Like, they don't own any land.
I guess just that people are in their pockets.
Yeah. Jesus.
So yeah, that's like a current thing that's going on that I just learned about. And you'll see like some articles, like some news stations will report about it and like put Donzinger in bad light. And it's like, it's very eye-opening. You can be like, oh, okay, these people are obviously like getting paid to say this shit. And then you also have like people not giving attention. Like New York Times is right by where Donzinger lives, and he's like asked them to go into a story, and they think someone started writing about it, and then they're like, I'm getting pulled off of this. That's all I can say.
Really? It makes you, I mean, if you find yourself being the guy defending, like corporate lawyers for the most part are Whoa. Corporate lawyers, for the most part, are pretty in my opinion, pretty shitty people. There's definitely a branch of corporate law that is good, and there's employment law and environmental law when you're on the right side of that. There's all those kinds, but for the most part, a lot of corporate lawyers are sellouts, and they're interested in making money.
And I'm curious,
or they like boring law.
I'm curious what their views are and how they defend their stance.
Mm-hmm.
How they twist it in their head so that they're comfortable living with it.
Right. And so this guy, Zinger, or whatever his name is, he's a corporate lawyer in a bad way. And not to mention originally he's defending this giant company, right?
Wait, no. He's a good lawyer. He's an environmental lawyer who sued Chevron for...
Yeah. I thought he defended them, did a bad job, and then they're suing him now.
No. He was the one who, held the rule book to him and was like, "Yeah, this is obviously fucked up. Now you got to pay the consequences."
And so
then they're
like, coming
now
at him.
You got to pay the consequences for coming at us, bub.
Is there any traction, or is it just there's a dark cloud looming over this man?
Oh, there's serious traction. If people don't get involved, he's gonna get life in prison or something.
Wait, that's crazy.
Yeah, and he's been doing everything right. Well, and what's scariest is his case is really disheartening and awful, but that just means that all activists should be scared because they're setting the status that you can do this to an activist lawyer and get away with it. That you don't mess with big companies because we'll ruin your life.
Yeah, the precedent there is crazy. Here he is, I'm sure he has some money behind him, but probably not Chevron money helping him out or influence. And he's a Mach 2 Jaeger pilot up against a Category 5 kaiju right now.
For real.
Yeah. Oh man. Wow, that's insane. I'd like to learn more about that too, just to see
it's very interesting.
I'm sure they have every string on every side of surrounding him, pulling, making sure he's not going to breathe any fresh air for a while. That kind of plays into there's multiple sides to defending guilty parties. There's the aspect of people who are all right. So when we talk about what's his name? Where is he?
Young Tuna?
John Henry Brown, who is the defender of Ted Bundy, and Robert Bales, who was a war criminal who killed 11 people in the Afghanistan war.
Was that with a Blackwater guy?
Maybe, I don't know. I skimmed on the backstory of Robert Bales, but the idea is that this guy defends public enemies, and he seems by all accounts a very nice guy, and he's talking about how he defended these people, and he's his first statement in this interview I was watching, he's I believe in the underdog. I don't think you can consider a mass murder an underdog. Funny
I don't
way
know about that.
Funny way to justify it. I mean, the way he says it is he sells it. When I first heard it, I was that's an interesting take. And I was wait a second. With when Ted Bundy went to trial, there was no debate of whether or not he killed a bunch of people and escaped 2 prisons.
I know nothing about Ted Bundy other than that he has a Netflix special and he was creepy with ladies and killed them. But did he get off?
No. He's a good-looking guy from Seattle who is very charismatic, but a total sociopath. And he...
Sounds like Pete.
Where's Pete right now? He's probably listening to this to get some tips on how to get off. But he's a total sociopath, and he would lure girls to his apartment and kill them, basically. And I think he was married the whole time he was doing it, and wife never knew.
Takes a bit of skill.
Takes a lot of skill to deceive someone you're with 24/7. And he was studying to become a lawyer in Seattle. Yeah, he's a smart guy. I mean, a lot of these serial killers are extremely smart guys. But yeah, so he got caught and then got put in Colorado prison or something, and then he escaped. Got put in like Ohio prison twice, I think. And then he was
like Shawshank Redemption style, like hole in the wall, Great Escape, all that.
I don't know exactly the nature of his escape, but yeah, he escaped. I think what it was he was in Florida, and Florida had the death penalty. And so he tried to escape and get to another place,
another state
where the death penalty wasn't, because it's basically
does
where
that
you
work?
I think you can get tried in the area that you committed your last crime. So I think he came up to another state, killed someone else.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
that is really smart.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck, I gotta commit a crime.
Yeah, he's like, I don't know.
Intense though, like do a little burglary. I mean, this guy.
Yeah, I don't know.
Got no reason.
I don't know if there's like if you have to commit a crime of like equal intensity, or like maybe you get tried in the state where your most intense crime was, and like tie goes to the most recent or something. But
they have an auction.
Yeah, who wants him? But they like. This lawyer recounted a story of when he went into Ted Bundy's cell in, must have been Colorado, because I think that's where he ended up. But it was like a Hannibal Lecter style cell where like all four sides are exposed with guards all around it, and it's like in a glass case. This man's like, which seems kind of like
over the top.
Yeah, like I'm sure he wasn't digging his way out of jail. I mean, maybe I'll eat my words on that one, but. I'm sure he wasn't digging himself through like walls of concrete. They don't need to do this like dramatic surrounding of him. But yeah, he recounts going in and like talking to him. And I feel like this John Henry Brown's way of justifying it more. But he was like, Ted Bundy was the least psychopathic psychopath I've ever encountered. It's like as if that makes it better.
He's the most charming psychopath I ran into.
Yeah. He was like, he told me that he felt bad, and therefore he was less psychopathic than other psychopaths. I was like, well, he was a smart guy. He probably just
lied to you.
He probably just lied to you to help you serve him. But Ted Bundy was notorious for like firing lawyers. But this guy, I think the one thing this guy said that kind of might sum up why anyone would defend a mass ugly murderer like this. I mean, someone's got to do it.
How many people did he kill that we know of?
Let me look it up. Ted Bundy kill count.
He's got a fun name. It reminds me of like a playhouse. He'd be a character like Chuck E. Cheese or on Sesame Street.
Ted Bundy?
Yeah. It's like a bouncy name.
Ted Bundy. Hey, kids.
It's Ted Bundy.
It's me, Ted Bundy. Oh, gosh. Would you like to play? He killed 30. He confessed to 30.
A lot of fucking people.
Yeah. That's a lot. And like, he was executed, so.
Oh, shit.
But yeah, this guy, what's his name again? John Wick Henry Brown. He basically, he said, well, I don't believe in the death penalty. He had this weird story where he was like, I grew up not believing in the death penalty. And then he was like, and then a girl got killed. And then for a little bit, I believed in the death penalty. But then I remembered she didn't believe in the death penalty, so I don't believe in the death penalty anymore. But
then I remembered again that her grandma didn't believe in the death penalty. So I started believing in it again.
Yeah, and then I started believing. And then one time, a big fat man in a red suit came down the chimney and told me, you shouldn't believe in the death penalty. I was like, all right. But, yeah. I don't know. So I guess that's an insight. Like I can, if I believed this man, I would believe that like, all right, maybe you just don't believe in the death penalty. It's a fundamental thing about you and you can do something about it because you're a great criminal defense lawyer. And then maybe you'd go out and protect these insane serial killers. Just imagine your life. Like these are public cases where news agencies are covering them. Everyone knows what you look like, your name.
Death threats.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
All the families of the 30 victims being like, threatening them.
Yeah, like grab him by the collar. You fucking.
Yeah. Oh, John Bon Jovi knows all about that.
Oh yeah.
He's representing some scum. He seems to only win the case when he's representing someone who's guilty.
He goes off. It's like his it's his spinach.
It's his spinach. His Popeye spinach.
John Bon Jovi goes boil when he's on spoil. But yeah, I'd like to, first of all, John Bon Jovi is our resident lawyer that we've brought on.
He represents our podcast.
And our interests. And so, yeah, be looking out mostly on our TikTok, I'd imagine, for John Bon Jovi to
make an appearance.
Yeah, if you're in a jam, caught in a jam, call Bon Jovi.
Call Bon Jovi. Attorney at law. He works very cheap, too. That's the only reason why we have him.
Yeah, he does. He charges about $10 an hour.
Yeah.
Was that what it was?
Yeah, $10 an hour.
Yeah.
Eats a lot of eggs, though, so if you don't want to put up with that, I don't think he's a lawyer for you.
Yeah. He will have stinky breath. He will not charm the jury.
Will not.
So I don't know what kind of lawyer you're looking for, but if that fits your description. Yeah, so I guess we're talking about how lawyers like live with it. And there's some lawyers, like I said, the other lawyer that like looks at life through a foggy window, which is like, I don't get this.
What, can you explain the foggy window concept?
Well, like
what is that reasoning?
Like, to go back to the law, like if you're defending we talked about this in the thing today, but if you're defending someone and they're guilty and you know it or you find out about it, you still have to represent them. And so, and this could be a case about just like a traffic ticket, or this could be a case about someone like bludgeoning his family and his little like girl's friends in the bathroom or something like that. And you're looking at autopsies and taking in family and friend accounts and stuff like that. So he's like, his take was basically that things can get gruesome, and if you, as a defense attorney defending one of these people, linger on the facts and like the awfulness of this person,
the reality
of what's going on, then you and like the emotions and get too attached, then you're not going to be able to serve them well. And the law states you have to serve them. I think the word they use is zealously. Like you have with passion,
emotion. You gotta go empty on the tank for them.
Yeah. Otherwise, you could get in trouble, and this person will just get a new trial, because I'm pretty sure you can get a retrial for misrepresentation. And
I get the foggy window now. That's pretty dark.
Mm-hmm.
You just gotta put up blinders to yourself so you can make it through.
Yeah. And another guy, you have to blind yourself. Another guy was like, one time I did get attached to someone, or like to the case, or he didn't really specify, but I have to assume he was talking about like to the people who were affected by his guilty party that he's representing. And he was saying that he would go to the beach and feel guilty, and like, I don't know, he was just talking about how it weighed on him.
Go to the beach. He's just riding jet skis. At the time of his life, I felt so guilty. I couldn't live with myself.
Thanks to getting this murder off, I can now afford 2 new jet skis, and I feel bad about it. I was thinking more of like a Green Day, boot-cut jeans dragging in the sand.
Kicking stones down the beach.
Walking into the ocean and just like letting it wash over him. That's what I was imagining. But he's a rich lawyer that people pay to get him hired. And the guy that defended Ted Bundy, he was around one of the longest of any of Ted Bundy's lawyers, because he got the closest, I guess, to getting him off from the death penalty. And I mean, that was his job coming in. Some lawyers are hired because they're good at getting you off the death penalties, like we said earlier. Some are hired because they could get you out of the crime.
Just lower the sentencing.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, the lawyer who's taking this job isn't thinking, is this person guilty or not guilty? They're thinking, can I win this case? So it's a very warped perspective on like morality. And I'm sure everyone will justify it, especially the ones that make a shit ton of money. And which was another thing we talked about, like, there's a brand of lawyer who makes all the money for defending people who are guilty. Or like, it's not necessarily like we'll get you out of being guilty, but they're like, are you in a tough spot? We can get you out. And then there's the brand of lawyer who's like the appointed lawyer. And that doesn't in every case necessarily mean they're a worse lawyer. There are some people who do that in the first place because like coming out of law school, they probably had the option to make money, but they wanted to do good. And then those people go into nonprofits. There's the other side of that, of defending someone who is guilty, where you're like taking into account societal context and maybe the law doesn't acknowledge like upbringing and socioeconomic status and things like that, but maybe you do, and you're there to defend guilty people because you acknowledge that the facilities and role models and whatever that the person you're defending had growing up weren't sufficient enough to give them like a proper moral compass or like to be able to operate within the rule of law. Kind of the example of like the bank robber who steals to feed his family, you know, the Aladdin type.
To steal the bread to feed your family.
Yeah.
Type thing.
So there's that side of defending, which I can, that side I can really get behind. And I remember watching a TED Talk a long time ago. I couldn't find it in my research here, but about it, someone who's like, if the best defense, this is shitty, but the best defense is a good offense. And he was,
oh, that's a Blake.
Yeah. But the best defense is a good offense, and what he meant by that was that prosecutors actually have the room to make the most change in that regard. Where they're, and this is a tangent, but like you can make the most changes as a prosecutor because you determine sentencing, you determine what you're prosecuting this person for, and how and what they can do in means of reprimandation. But yeah, but the same goes for those defendants who are there morally for maybe the right reasons, where they acknowledge that maybe their goal, they work for a nonprofit to represent certain communities that are underrepresented in general, and they're just there to reduce sentencing and things like that.
You know what? I can't believe this just popped in my head now. Talked about just like a day or two ago with our girlfriend. She said that, oh God, I'm going to blank on his name now. The guy who killed his mom, famous serial killer. Anyway, he's on parole. So when he didn't get the death penalty. He got like several life sentences. He's in the show Mindhunters, if you've seen that. He got several life sentences, but he did still have the ability of parole. And I don't know any updated information on it. I don't know if they'll ever give it to him, but yeah, Kemp, Ed Kemp. Kemper? Yeah, that's him.
Really? That's the co-ed killer?
The co-ed killer, yeah.
Wow. Edmund Kemper is on parole.
I don't know if he's out on parole, but
he's up for a parole trial or something like that.
That's what I think it is.
Huh. Wait, let me look into this a little
Apparently, he's been doing good stuff like trying to help sociopaths in prison to like see the error of their ways and make moral decisions. Some other stuff too.
Edmund Kemper's brother says family live in fear of his release from prison. David Weber didn't collaborate when he was told that his half-brother Edmund Kemper had been denied parole last month. He just breathed a sigh of relief. For over 40 years, Kemper's relatives have been living in fear that one of America's most notorious serial killers might be released from prison and come after them. Speaking publicly for the first time, David Weber, a name he uses to protect his identity. Oh, wow. That's insane. Tells Daily Mail.
This is his brother?
Yeah. He has this control over the family, and there's still anger over what he did. So many people live in fear that he could be allowed to freedom. You just can't trust what a president may decide. What? Did Trump try to allow him to be on?
Trump is like, Ed Kemp is a good guy.
Yeah.
He deserves a second chance.
You can't hate a guy with the last name of Kemper.
Said he liked my steaks. That's a classy fellow right there.
If you're a real American family, you name your first son Edmund. Mindhunter killed, dismembered 6 young women, as well as his grandparents' mother and his best friend between 1964. Jesus Christ.
I guess his mom was neglectful, and he had a lot of mommy issues. When he killed her, he did lots of gross things, but he put her vocal cords down the disposal.
Jesus.
And that's just like filled with some rooted hatred and like serious psychological issues
Yeah.
they must have had with her.
Jesus. He's one of those, I think he's supposed to be one of the smartest serial killers ever. Look how tall he is. I remember this too.
Yeah, massive.
And
guy.
he's gotten bigger, like wide-wise too. So he's just like an intimidating. In Mindhunter, he like chokes the Mindhunter guy.
Okay.
Yeah, the guy
Sounds
hunting
like Van
minds.
Helsing.
Yeah.
Mindhunter. Or what? Chris Angel.
Yeah.
Mindhunter.
Mindhunter.
I could totally see Chris Angel being Van Helsing type.
He would if all of a sudden, like if there was a lottery or like some people were volunteering to be Van Helsing, it would be him and David Blaine, like in some kind of fierce competition on how to like catch like thieving elves and like
if our universe clashed with another dimension and we got like a burst of elves and demonic creatures and all that, I could totally see David Blaine and Van Helsing. No, not Van Helsing. Chris Angel being
Van Helsing.
Just like totally at the ready to handle it.
Yeah. Like we oddly over-prepared for it.
They got like the trench coats pulled out, the dusty hats, crossbows, silver bullets.
It's like some government official shows up at their door and they like come out like with like the flak jacket and like magical grenades strapped up and the crossbow. Like they were like, where are the double-headed dwarves?
Yeah, scruffy beard already.
Yeah. Like people had just a couple days before, people would be commenting like how Chris Angel hasn't had like a big
big
show
showing
lately.
Time.
Chris Angel would actually probably he would come out of a grave. He would have been doing like, no one knew it, but he's been buried alive for the past like 2 years.
Working on his most recent trick.
He's
just burying himself dead.
Getting in the mind of a vampire coming or providing the next vampocalypse.
Rebisp.
Not Bespe. The other guy who defended Charles N.G. Do you remember that name?
Charles N.G.?
That was the killer.
The only Charles I know is Schwab.
Charles Schwab.
Charles Schwab.
Oh boy. Look at this
you hear
guy.
Me, Sam? Who is this? Oh, man. Charles N.G.
Is convicted Hong Kongese American serial killer who committed numerous crimes in the United States. 11 victims, 25 suspected. 11. Did you read victims too? Because I meant convictions.
Yeah, I did.
I don't know why I saw the same
Click on
thing.
his parents. Let me see.
You want to see his parents? He looks a little bloated.
He does.
Oh, wait, did I click on his high school? He went to a very nice high school. Kenneth?
Good picture. We're not going to find it.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad that there are no pictures of these poor people. Like the ease of being able to like these poor people. Yeah. Oh, there's also a factor of maybe they were some of the cause, but I don't know.
You ever get like scary nightmares about serial killers? Or any like what is it? Illogical fears?
My biggest illogical fear is that I would become a serial killer.
Whoa. Live long enough to see yourself become enemy.
That's the thing. I feel like that's a real that's some kind of like thing that people worry about. But yeah, definitely I've had dreams where like I was the killer. Like I never remember doing the crimes, but I just remember getting accused of them and admitting to it.
Like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, you turn into a monster. Don't remember.
Monty and JJ.
Yeah, Monty.
Just in my drunken stupor, I commit mass murders. Gosh. Do you?
I don't think I do. You know, I that's probably definitely a privilege that we have as guys. You know, I'm never worried when I pull up to a gas station in the middle of nowhere.
That's true. Snakes? Do you fear? Yeah, you fear snakes, like their presence. If like that one time you thought something was a snake, and for the rest of the time, the idea of it haunted you. Like, do you get that unwarranted ever? You ever in an area where like the snakes could get me?
I get that in the water. Like
All
the
water?
ocean. The ocean.
Mm.
No, not in like pools or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I think they're called sea cucumbers, where they look like snakes and they're on the bottom, and that like even though I knew they weren't snakes, they definitely freaked me out.
Yeah. Just the remembrance of a snake.
Remembrance. The effigy. Yeah, we should make an effigy.
What does that mean?
Like a totem or a sculpture of, I think, look up the exact term. I guess like a religious sculpture.
Effigy. How do you spell it?
Yeah, that's it. EFFIGY.
A sculpture or model of a person. Oh.
I just have a person.
A roughly made model of a particular person made in order to be damaged or destroyed as a protest or expression of anger. Isn't that is voodoo doll an offensive term?
I don't know.
Well, regardless, one of the best ones is
The Wicker Man.
this one.
One of Trump.
Yeah, that is amazing. I'm saving that to my desktop right now. Oh, good stuff. But yeah, let's do that. Who would you make one of?
So many people.
Yeah.
Hip, probably. We should start fueling this war that he wants to bulldoze Denver. Start poking at him, teasing him.
Just giving him reason to fight back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Take one of those like little old timey fire blowers, the pump things.
Yeah.
Just shoot it right at hip. Put it right up his bumhole. Pete's bumhole.
Which one of our friends do you think would make the best villain? Would you like to see as the villain the most?
Which one of our friends?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a tough question. It's also hard to relate to on the podcast. How about unsuspecting movie stars?
Unsuspecting movie stars.
Yeah.
Who would be a fun person to watch fall from the heights and then turn into a villain?
Yes. Like who? I like to think of someone who's like fairly unstable already. They're already tottering. And like you just like it's kind of like watching a kid run down the street, and you just know they're gonna fall at some point. That's the story I kind of fall behind.
That I could see some people being like, oh, I guess we should have seen that coming. Like Nicolas Cage being a serial killer.
Yeah.
Like, I guess all the signs were there.
Him and like, he would be the crime boss, but in like a little crime ring of like him, Steve Buscemi, and Christopher Walken.
Yes. That's a good trio.
Yeah. Only because he's like a little younger, so he'd have the brawn. Although, like, Steve Buscemi would be the guy that would just go, like, ape shit and even, like, break the rules of even the murderers.
Unhinged.
Yeah. Because I feel like his eyes don't blink and he just starts freaking out. Like Jason Street after he gets tackled. I had to murder everyone. They were everywhere.
Too many of them out there. I just had to get rid of all of them. Sorry, coach. I couldn't see, coach.
What's something that someone brought up? Rob brought this up in the chat.
Box X.
Sorry. He posted this take from a nerd book or a lawyer book.
Same thing.
A lawyer's representation of a client, including representation by appointment, does not constitute an endorsement of the client's political, economic, social, and moral views or activities. So that's kind of a law that lets lawyers off the hook by the law, which I think is funny because like that only exonerates someone who's like a super big time rule person. So like that being said, as like legal, yeah, sure. I've always acknowledged that representing a shitty dirtbag mass murderer for money is legal, but like this is just a law. I feel like that helps lawyers feel better about lawyers, like misrepresenting or representing shitty people.
Yeah.
What kind of defense lawyer would you be?
What do I have to choose from? Where the Pickens?
Oh, you could be like a corporate defense where you're getting them out of like environmental crimes, like you were talking about. You could be criminal defense, but maybe you're just like into reducing sentences. Maybe you work for a company but as like you defend employees in like in disputes for their rights, or a union lawyer maybe.
Labor law.
Yeah.
I don't know. To be honest, those all sound god awful.
Yeah.
None. I'd want to be the judge.
Your form of law would be like the Spartan kick into the unlimited hole. Yeah.
I'd be the guy who digs the hole that people kick with the Spartan kick into the hole.
You'd be the hole digger?
I'd be the hole digger.
So you create the void in which the bodies fill?
Yeah. Oh, shit. That was fucking poetic.
I don't know what it means. I just kind of said words in a quick flurry.
Well, you tied some great tethers between law and an endless void that we kick people into.
So is the digger of the endless void eternally digging?
Nah, it's just one day job.
Is it like
one big scoop?
Big scoop, and then
holes there.
Is it like what is it? Is that a lapis lazuli axe that you're using?
Lapis lazuli shovel.
Shovel. That makes more sense.
People didn't know this in Minecraft. You can make lapis lazuli shovels. Diamond is not the best. It's lapis lazuli.
Lapis lazuli. You can even make them out of lapis lazuli. Well, let's. I wanted to add at the end one little tidbit of conversation that is directly pertains to me, who's lost the ability to drive recently. And it's about small traffic crimes and how to get out, because this is a kind of defending criminal parties that I can get behind, as long as it's not like alcohol induced or you were like being an asshole while speeding way too fast in like a residential zone. I'm talking like 90 and a 75 on like an open highway in the middle of Kansas, that kind of like pulled over speeding ticket, or like those dumb radar guns, or the ones that get the
flyovers,
the flashers.
Flyovers.
What are the flyovers?
They have aerial speed ticket. Like they'll send a drone over and it'll track people's speed. And
I saw that on my ticket as like a check box. It said aerial. I thought that was only in like if you're like in a chase. Have you gotten that one?
No, but there's some sections of road in the U.S. where they have a sign that's like warning aerial speed tracking, and like they don't do it often for sure. They probably do it like once in a blue moon just to scare people.
Oof. Is that on the way to Minnie?
I don't know. I think I was driving west when I got it, or when I saw it.
Yeah, well, that's something to look out for. I don't want any more tickets, but
I think it's just a scare.
I watched a couple of videos on the best way to get out of your traffic tickets. The best way to get out of your traffic tickets. I said that again because it's going to go in the highlight reel. But yeah, I fundamentally disagree with this behavior, because I think a lot of cops like abuse their power at traffic stops to like intimidate you, and I get that their job is very hard on one side of things, where like sometimes there is going to be a traffic stop where things go a little more awry than just little old me sitting in my car and not doing anything. Like maybe there's definitely a fear associated with it. But a lot of this has to do with sucking up to policemen. And again, I'm not a lawyer, so don't take this verbatim, but advice via lawyers who were also very careful to say that this is not lawyerly advice. You should hire a lawyer. They were saying things. So when you get a small traffic crime, when the first thing to worry about is when you're being pulled over. What do you think you do? Just when you look in your rear view and the lights flash.
Pull your pants up.
If that situation applies to you, absolutely pull your pants up first.
Pull over.
Yeah.
We're already pulled over?
No. Yeah, I mean, you pull over, but how? How do you go about all this? Definitely pull over.
You pull over,
yeah.
You roll the window down, say, "Officer, what did I do wrong?"
Exactly. You were close. You're actually supposed to just flip them the bird and speed off, and they'll leave you alone. But yeah,
you legally cannot chase you.
Yeah.
That is not legal advice.
Yeah. But you're supposed to pull over, but you're supposed to make sure that you pull over as far off the shoulder as possible, because apparently police officers notice when you like give them extra room, because that's something they're very conscious of. The next thing you do is,
that's a good one.
Yeah. So like
on their good side.
Yeah, exactly. You're doing all these like little things. So like it's less that they'll notice that you did it, and more that they would notice if you didn't do it, like, because there are stories that I was watching of people who like barely pulled over on the highway, and this officer either has to say like, like on his speaker, like, please move over, move off the shoulder or whatever. And that just kind of gets you in a grumpy mood. Keep in mind, this officer has pulled over 12 to 15 people that day already. And some of those have been poorly and have been the worst way possible, or the person's been sassy. So get all the way over, even into the dirt a little bit, give them room. And then you're supposed to put your hands on 10 and 2 of the steering wheel so that they have visibility of your hands at all times. And keep in mind, I disagree with sucking up to policemen in any way. And I don't believe that, if you're not showing your hands, that you deserve to be shot or anything like that. But this is just in the mind of a policeman, and what puts them at ease, and you want to put them at ease. So when they're pulling up, don't do anything fidgety. You're okay to be nervous and show remorse because they're kind of expecting that. And I guess in some cases, if you're not showing remorse or nervousness, maybe not remorse because that comes in later, but nervousness, that actually might trigger their gut, according to some people on the internet. Some advice was behave like you're around your grandma. Don't yell at them. Don't be sassy. Don't try to contradict them or tell you they were wrong. This is not the place to argue.
Oh, gross.
Grandma, shut up. You're rambling again.
Tell that to the cop. Hey, shut up. You're rambling.
Boring.
I got places to be, asshole.
Yeah. Feel free to call in, throw in a couple sirs or ma'ams. I don't know. Be as kind as possible. A big key thing is don't admit to anything. They always ask, do you know why I pulled you over today? And just say, this one's one that I don't do. I always forget, but I'm always like, I'm assuming I was speeding. Cause in my head, I was like, I don't want to admit that, like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I want to sound like a sound driver, but they're jotting down or recording everything you say, and it can be used against you if you decide, and you should decide, to say not guilty for your ticket. So if you say, like, I was speeding, 1, you might be admitting to that, you committed the crime or something like that. 2, they might have been pulling you over for your left light going out. So now you just admitted to 2 crimes, and you don't want to do that. Once again, don't argue. Arguing is for the courtroom. Accept everything there. This is obviously from the privilege of a white person stating this, and like that you do have your rights within a certain reason. But I'm talking about if this is like how a traffic stop should go. Being a jerk is only going to hurt you. And when the police officer asks you to grab whatever he wants you to grab, I think it's license and registration, it's good practice and very respectful seeming to the officer to be like, okay, officer, I'm going to reach into my pocket where my wallet is. I'm going to pull out my ID, and my registration is in the glove box. I'll reach there next. That carefulness comes across as very respectful to the officer and what they're thinking about. So yeah, again, that shouldn't be how it is, but that's how it is. And then when they leave, when you give them that stuff and they leave, hands go back on 10 and 2. They're watching you the whole time. They don't want to see you rustling around for shit while they're away. That makes them nervous. There was one account of a girl saying that she was just reorganizing things in her purse. She was nervous naturally. And he comes back up and he mentions it. He's like, you were making me nervous with how you were rummaging around down there. And just so you know, that kind of sucks. It doesn't hurt to suck up a little bit. I don't know how you would start a conversation with an officer, but one guy was like, if you can start a conversation with him, maybe be like, I've never been in this area before. It's really beautiful. That could start a conversation. That could loosen someone up, maybe take their mind off of like this ticket mode.
Bundy's like, do you know any co-ed dorms nearby? I like this university.
Yeah. Looking for some co-eds to take back. He's like, yeah, sure. Right up down the road.
Around old Smokey's bar.
The cop that, by the way, pulled me over told me he does not believe in masks. That kind of made me mad. Mm. He was like,
what, did he not have a mask on?
He didn't have a mask on. And I was like trying to put my mask on, be like, I just want to be respectful. And he was like, you don't need to put those on. I don't believe in that stuff. It's like, all right, now I know who we're dealing with. And he's pulling over someone in Colorado plates. Like, I feel like he kind of had his predisposition. My take on that is I have a take on that. And it's like, if if you don't believe in masks, which are something you do to protect other people around you that won't necessarily hurt anyone around you, then how could you possibly believe in speeding laws? Because speeding laws aren't always going to kill someone around you. They like the idea is like, oh, I'm only putting myself in danger, but you're not. And I don't know. I feel like philosophically, they're kind of the same thing.
Definitely hypocritical.
Yeah. Like, obviously, I'm not going to say that shit.
You're wrong.
Yeah. Sir, I have a philosophical argument to make with you. I've never been in this area. If you're a firearm person, alert them of your firearms, even if you're not in a state where firearms are required to be alerted to an officer when present. That was something they brought up, like just even if you're just on a fishing trip or whatever, it's just safe. And again, you're getting respect points. You're just like knowing what the officer has to go through, I guess. Again, suck up to him. If you have any good conversation starters, small talks, please tweet those at us. I can't think of any right now.
You know what I'd love is like all the videotapes of people who try and start conversations with cops, but just blow it, like botched conversations.
Hey, officer, it's a good day we're having out here.
Like people are really nervous.
Yeah, exactly. Because I feel like that's when I feel like I would crumble in that situation. Like, what would be an embarrassing thing to say to an officer? Just like, I like that outfit.
Nice outfit you got.
Oh, shit. It's a nice outfit I have on.
Oh, did you see me driving?
Yeah. Oh, I almost broke the sound barrier. Comedians always talk about like telling jokes that would make them laugh. I wouldn't be able to do that.
Or I could definitely see someone telling a cop like, hey, nice gun you got there, or like, what gun you got? Ever see that Dan Blazarian guy? There was the the really big Las Vegas shooting.
Yeah.
He was there and he was like trying to get a cop to give him a gun. And so like there are cops there like locking down the perimeter, like they're alert, they're nervous or whatever, like their mind is in like
frantic mode.
Yeah, like red alert mode or whatever. And this like fucking dick is just like, yo, give me a gun. Give me a gun. And they're like, shut the fuck up. Like, you're distracting us. I will not give you a gun.
Was this guy like thinking like I could help defend?
Yeah.
Was that the idea? Like, let me at the situation.
Yeah. You know who Dan Blazarian is?
Oh, it was Dan Blazarian doing this?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness gracious. Man sucks dick. I hate everything that guy stands for. I thought you were saying he like took a video of someone doing that, but that makes a lot more sense. He wasn't in the army or anything, right? He's just a rich boy that like sails on boats with pretty girls.
No, he says he was in Navy SEALs or whatever, but he lied a lot of shit. I don't know what's true.
He fits the look at the very least. He's got the big beard and he's jacked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when you take the ticket into court, which you should, don't plead guilty. If you have, like, some people just want to get rid of it.
Well, hold on. There's stuff I gotta add in there before.
Oh, really?
If you're pulled over by a cop and they want to search it, again, this is stuff I've heard from lawyers, not legal advice. But if they want to search your car, you should know your rights and that they need a warrant to search it. And if they say something like, it smells like weed, you can say, all right, bring in a K9 unit. And that will
possibly deter them.
Yeah, possibly deter them. So you don't have to submit to a search. They need a warrant for that.
Because what's the sum game there? Like if you say yes, search it, they're definitely going to search it. And if you say no, I need a K9 unit, then there's a chance that they might be like, okay, never mind.
I don't know if you say like, yes, just go ahead. But like, I don't know, say you got the Colorado car, you're carrying like a pound as you usually do. And going into Utah and some Utah cop schmo comes up to you and is like, yo, it smells like weed, dude. You smell that shit, dude? You can be like, nah, I don't know what you're talking about. You can bring down a K9 unit if you want. And those puppies, they're hard to get your hands on. So they'll probably just be setting you free. Yeah. Unless they're having a bad day and they want to wait like 5 hours.
Right. That's the thing. Like, that's another, like, most cops think about it. they've pulled over 2 or 3 shitty people that day. So like being nice is refreshing. I've also heard that the quota thing is overblown in how people always say like, oh, they're just filling their quota, you're not going to get off, or that kind. They pulled you over because they just need to get a couple more tickets before the end of the month. Like I've heard that's pretty overblown. And definitely not something you should be considering in this situation. You should just be trying to do your best. Like being an asshole won't help you. And what we're thinking about is helping you, not the officer in this case. But what was I going to say? Yeah, so when you get to court, the first reason that you say not guilty is because a lot of the times, maybe not a lot of the times, but there are times, and this was coming from a prior officer that I was reading this article of, the officer won't show up to the court date. And if you should ask for a court date, there needs to be an officer that is present, because you have a right to see who is accusing you in your charges as a defendant. And I think probably minus some cases where like seeing them might be of jeopardy to you. But in this case, like there's a lot of times where the officer will just be on duty the next time when your court case is. And so they won't be able to show up, or they have a more pressing thing and
So it's best to just go not guilty on a speeding ticket and hope that you don't show up for court and that they don't as well.
That's reason one why it's best to say not guilty, but there's a bunch of reasons to say not guilty. Because you might think like, oh, it's just a $120 speeding ticket. What's that hurt? But that can raise your points. That can get you closer to a license suspension. That can, that will affect your insurance most likely and make your insurance month over month more expensive. And so, because that proves you're more of
liability.
Yeah, exactly. The insurance takes it as a liability at least. But yeah, so take it into court. Maybe your officer won't show up. If he does show up, again, not lawyers, but there's a couple things to look at. On your ticket, it will say how you got pulled over. If you got pulled over based on, they have timers that they use sometimes. It seems really old timey, but like officers are trained to look across the horizon line and follow a car and be able to judge based on a timer how fast you're going. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty easy way to be like, how do you know that your angle of when you judged me? Are we sure that there weren't any cars that overlapped me? You're trying to prove reasonable doubt. That's it. Like that's your only job.
No one does that anymore. They have the BB guns.
Well, yeah, but like if you look on my ticket, but they still have the checkbox for it. And this guy in this pretty recent video said that they still do it. So I'd find it hard to believe that.
Some departments have like fucking tanks and they're still timing with eyesight
yeah,
and stuff.
Imagine like being like, I'm going to be in the police academy, and then like being in this old jalopy with like a pocket stopwatch, just watching the second hand move by. But then there's the radars, and every radar basically is tuned with I didn't know this, but you tune a radar. An officer is supposed to tune a radar every day before their shift with a tuning fork. And the tuning fork is ranked for a certain miles per hour, and you know that, and you ring it in front of your radar, and it should show that speed. And if it doesn't, then they have to calibrate it differently, or that radar is out of commission. So, and the guy on this video was like, I almost never tuned my radar. And he was like, if you go into court and you ask for proof of when the last time the radar was like tuned or whatever, and they say like is beyond a day, then that's another way to instill reasonable doubt in terms of whether or not your reading is accurate. I don't know how that works necessarily. If you were going 91 in a 75 and they're like, okay, so maybe it was 3 miles per hour off, you're still speeding. Or in my case, like still driving with a bad license. So, I don't know. The other thing you can do is you can ask the officer. So this is where being a nice person comes into play, because you can say remember this court date's going to be months after. They're going to have pulled over hundreds of more people. And if you're not the asshole from that day, they're probably not going to remember you. And so you can say, do you remember like when you pulled me over, were there any larger trucks going by me? Because the radar immediately adapts to whatever the largest item is going by them. And you can say, like, what was the traffic like? Is there any chance that it picked up on someone else's movements? That kind of thing. And that can instill some more reasonable doubt. And then on top of that, you can also, this one seems a little stretched. Maybe if you're a science guy or girl that you could pick up on this one more, but there is a theory that the radar guns are made to pick up people either when they're perpendicular to the gun or coming straight at it. And that is almost never the case of when they grab your speed. And so you can say like,
gun wasn't made for that.
yeah, you could say this gun wasn't made for that. Or like you could say something about like, there's something about the cosine efficient of when a gun can accurately pick up your speed. So you can say, where were you? If they were on an overpass and got you, they probably were accurate. But if they're on the side of the road, they're almost never in a position to really, truly accurately grab your speed as intended. And so, again, that's, and some people don't calibrate it to the exact distance of where they're grabbing your speed. So that's another way to get at it.
We don't even know any of this information because we hired John Bonjoyo.
Yeah.
He's cheaper than a ticket.
And when all else fails, hire yourself a lawyer like John Bonjoyo.
Now that's legal advice we can give.
Yeah. Oh boy. Well, yeah, I don't know. That's kind of all I have in that subjecto patronum.
Man, who needs a law degree? I feel like I could do anything right now after our conversation.
With a little YouTube and a couple articles right off Google.
A couple idiot friends giving us hints in our Discord. Yeah.
A couple of you idiot listeners telling us what to do. Also, we got a donation from someone today, and I wanted to check that out.
Slap Happy?
Not Slap Happy. Slap Happy still waiting for you to listen to an episode.
Line our pockets.
And line our pockets, because we know you are slap happy with cash. Let's see. Let's see what she said. Keep doing what you're doing was the message. Wow.
Who said this? Who said these things?
I don't want to say her full name, but it's
Oh, wow. Look at that person.
Yeah. Look at the name on that one.
Look at the name. I've never seen anything like that.
We know her personally, but yeah. Well, thank you. I feel bad when our own friends donate. Don't feel bad when our listeners donate though. So it'll make me feel better.
Now you kind of just made us feel like shit. So thanks.
Yeah. But yeah, appreciate everyone listening. What should we do to sign off?
Our favorite worst joke to tell a cop that pulls you over.
A bad joke to call a cop.
I could see some like average dad being like, I just murdered a family back there. Like trying to be like outrageously comedic, but the cop doesn't know him, so it doesn't go over well at all.
Yeah, like to build off that, like, I passed 6 cops before you caught me.
Yeah. Exactly. That's a good one.
Dude, the eye roll you would get.
Yeah. You'll never find where I buried them.
Yeah. Immediate arrest. I feel like that actually would be grounds for a warrant. Immediately. Like they could go back, be like, this guy just said he killed someone.
We're going to hold him here for the next 3 hours.
Yeah. Bring in the SWAT team. One dad joke turned awfully wrong. You must have smelled the donuts in the car.
Just be so insulted. Don't suck of it all. That happens to Joyo.
Oh, gosh. Yikes. There's definitely some racially insensitive jokes you could make, too, to acknowledge the just institutional racism of policing, basically. And I'm not going to say any. I have some in mind, but...
me too.
I'm not there yet. But yeah, thank you all for listening. If you have any more good dad jokes, I don't really care to hear them, so keep them to yourself.
You.